It occurred to me that there's one more piece of advice that I think I have in regards to building better backstories as we wrap up this mini-series. So let's talk about that today. Hello and welcome. This is will be the final day for this mini-series about building a better backstory, looking at the personal characteristics of our characters, and how we can use that to create a well-rounded D&D character. A character that has personality, flaws, has, strengths and weaknesses that are more than just their abilities and their skills, their class, and that sort of thing. And so, in sort of summary, with all of these four, we've talked about the personality traits, ideals, flaws, and bonds. And as we look at those four, it occurred to me today that I was sort of reviewing and thinking about what we've talked about over the last few days. And I realized that there might be something that could be like a thread or a through line with all of these traits, all of these, attributes of our character. And that is this. What are the lessons learned in your character's experience before they became an adventurer? So this is what we're going to talk about in the vlog today. I wanted to dive into some backstory elements. This might come more into just, philosophical things. You see, the cool thing about this and why it sort of came to me today is I was just reflecting on those questions that I had proposed over the last few days, and I realized one thing that might make a difference or might answer a very good question of why is your character an adventurer and so forth, is what training did you receive? What did you learn? What skills did you acquire, and how did you acquire them? Maybe you have an incredibly high dexterity and you're amazingly skilled at acrobatics. Why? How did that happen? What was it about your youth or your early adulthood that helped you to develop that skill? Sure, there are people that are naturally gifted, but that's sort of flat, right? That doesn't give any meat. There's nothing to chew on. There's no potential for role playing from just saying, oh, my character's naturally gifted. It's more interesting to say my character thought they had a plan from when they were a little kid to join the circus, and so they practiced jumping and tumbling and rolling and climbing every day of their life from the time that they were 5 until the time they were 15. And then they realized, yeah, I'm not actually gonna go join the circus because that's ridiculous. Or maybe they did end up in the circus, and that's why they happen to be amazingly skilled at disguises. They were in charge of makeup and costuming and so forth, and it just so happened that they were very deft and skilled. They had the fine touch and the artist's eye and could create the most believable faces and costumes and so forth. These are the kinds of things that once we start to kind of open the door, once we get into it, once we start opening the questions to, well, why? What did my character learn that led them to become an incredible fighter, that led them to become an adventurer? I love falling back on the fighter soldier. The fighter soldier, to me, is the most fundamental, quintessential, and in a lot of ways, one of the most fun characters to play. They're real basic, and what's cool about that is that because, mechanically speaking, in game terms, it's sort of the most basic character we could play, that gives us lots of room to add our own embellishments, to create our own character, to create our own uniqueness in the character that we bring to the table, that we bring to the party. See, that's what I look for in role-playing. I want ways that I can distinguish one character from another. And I mean not necessarily my characters from the other players' characters. I'm almost more speaking of my own characters. I want to be able to distinguish my characters one from another. In other words, if I played a fighter in your game, I can guarantee you it would be different than a fighter I might play in my best friend's game or in a game that was streamed on Twitch or YouTube or something. Each fighter I might play, and I can tell you I've played a few of them through the years, although a lot of them were multi-class, but that's another story. I would bring something different to each fighter. My most recent soldier wasn't even a fighter. I like the soldier class for lots of different classes. Like, so that background soldier can work for pretty much any of the classes. It's weird to think of like a druid or a barbarian that's a soldier, although if you're thinking like of a Viking kind of theme or something like that, of course, why wouldn't a barbarian be a soldier, a militant-minded individual? And so here's what this to me, again, I was thinking, I just literally had the thought, should I wrap up? Should I do a summary of the building a better backstory, or am I done? Can I move on to some other topic for the DnDaily vlog? And it just popped into my mind, like, well, what about training? What did they learn? What are the lessons they learned? Because a lot of those things, let's talk about a different level of this as well. Let's say that your character as a child experienced the backlash of thievery. Let's say your parents were robbed when you were a child and you saw how it devastated your family. And that perhaps led you towards developing the alignment of lawful good. You realize that following the law protects people and protects families, and doing good things, well, that is going to prevent people from feeling bad and from being hurt. So that might inform your alignment. It might also inform the class or the background that you take. You see, you might, because of that experience, you might have it in for all criminals. So perhaps you've taken on a life of finding a way to be maybe you would want to be like a city guard or some kind of magistrate or something like this. And perhaps that has led you down the road that you've taken to become an adventurer, just because you realize that the real bad criminals, the real masterminds, were bigger than just the petty thieves and were more sinister and sometimes even intertwined within deep seats of society. And maybe you took it upon yourself to weed it out, to weed those vile, tumors of evil out from your kingdom or from the world. See, that's why I love this for this part of building a backstory. When you start thinking about that one, it's just one question. You could just ask yourself this one question. In addition, so asking yourself, why did I become or why did my character become an adventurer, might be the first step. And then maybe the second, maybe you only need to ask two questions to come up with an amazing backstory. Why did I become an adventurer? And how did I learn the lessons that developed the skills, the beliefs, the ideals, bonds, flaws that led to my life as an adventurer, or my life as a cleric, my life as a druid, and so forth. Oh, this one got me excited. I'm going to spend time thinking about these things for some of the characters I play, like my Zarko Cruz character that I'm playing on the Star Wars game. See, this doesn't just apply to Dungeons and Dragons. This applies to any role-playing game that we're going to play. This is just general backstory for role-playing. So for Zarko Cruz that I'm playing in our Fantasy Flights Edge of the Empire game that we play Wednesday nights, Tabletop Galaxy, which hopefully you're already aware of, I play Zarko Cruz, who is a human. He is a human explorer scout. And I have an idea of who he is. It's developing really quickly, but I recognize that I don't have a good understanding of his childhood and what lessons he learned before the adventure started. And I'm just so excited to dig into this. I think it's going to be a really fun exercise in developing this character and finding out more about who this character is. So, boy, tell me what you think about this. Tell me if this is helpful and how it's helpful for you. And I'd love to hear any of your stories, backstories. What are your techniques? How do you figure out your ideals, bonds, flaws, and personality traits? Do you roll for them randomly? Do you come up with them on your own? And so forth. Tell me all about it in the comments here on this video. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. I just am so grateful for each and every one of you. I look forward to seeing you at a table someday. Hey, by the way, check out one of these videos. It helps me out, and I'm sure you'll find something interesting down there. There's all kinds of goodies. Keep rolling 20s until I see you then, and remember, it's your game. Play your way.